If you're watching this, it means a moon has been made in our solar system for a planet called Earth. If you're not watching this, why did you press play and leave? Come back and watch. But if a moon hasn't been made in our solar system, then why am I here talking about this? I'm wasting my time here when I could be wasting it somewhere else. And if that is the case, press stop and move on with your life. This is a story about a young planet named Earth, who is on its way to becoming a very successful planet in a very important galaxy, but quickly learns that growing up has its troubles, and along the way takes a detour through the Twilight Zone.
In the beginning of our solar system, there were an estimated large number of planetesimals, one of which was Earth, and the other was about the size of Mars. And they were on a collision course with each other because some idiot put them in the same path for some reason. When they finally collided, the Mars-sized planet knocked the Earth 23.5 degrees on its side and tore a huge chunk out of the Earth and created a ring around the Earth made of tiny moons called moonlets, or moonlit Americans. Then after a while, the moonlit Americans slowly formed together to create a big ball of rock. Then it got showered with meteors and made craters, which made the big cratered rock we see today, which is by some people affectionately called the moon. The rest of us just call it the moon.
Hey, how was your trip?
It sucked. I went down to the Everglades, and there's this big alligator, ate my batteries. Ate the batteries out of my cell phone, ate the batteries out of my GPS unit, ate the battery out of my boat. I had to walk home. Try walking home from the Everglades, would you?
Whoa. You look like you need a chill strip.
Oh, well, maybe I do.
Chill strips. Put it on your tongue, let it dissolve, chill. By Karwaski Industries.
Oh, yeah, it's nice.
Around 150 BC, some guy named Hipparchus from some place called Nicaea used trigonometry to estimate how much empty space is between the blue rock and the gray rock. He calculated that the distance was between 59 and 67 times the radius of Earth. Today we now know that it's actually 60. Then in 1609, Galileo Galilei used his telescope for looking at the moon for the first time. The girl across the street went to Rome to visit her brother for a few weeks. And with the telescope he could see hills, valleys, seas, which in Latin is Maria, and little green people waving at him and looking at him with their own telescope. Now because Galileo couldn't see very far with his telescope, or couldn't see very clearly, or he just didn't know how to use the dang thing, we in the future created a big old telescope to look at the moon. And we discovered that there were not seas on the moon, only craters. Since Galileo named the craters when he thought they were seas, we still use the names he made today, such as the Sea of Tranquility, the Sea of Saw, the Sea of etc., etc. And because of that, whenever we find a new crater, we have to use C in the name. So thank Galileo for any past confusion, and if you have any future confusion, you are a big dummy. And I am surprised that you're even able to play this video. No, really, I bet you don't even know how to work a switch. I'm really smurfing amazed. Jeez. Enjoy this commercial break. I dare you. I think I need a chill strip. Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Let's find out. 1, 2, 3. I was gonna eat that, you jerk. I was just trying to. No. You didn't have to show me. All I wanted was a simple answer to my question. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. That's it. Do you know I spent the rest of my allowance money on that? And all you have to say is I'm sorry. Well, I thought you were giving it to me. Oh yeah? Well, I wasn't. I was just showing it to you so you can answer the question. Well, if you want, I could buy another one. No. It's fine. After all, you said you thought I was giving it to you. You know what? Why don't you try asking next time, you jerk? And now, here's something we hope you'll really enjoy.
Hey, mister! Someone at school told me that the moon is made of cheese. Is that true?
Actually, no. The moon isn't made of cheese. It just looks like cheese because there are craters on the moon.
They also told me that the reason the moon gets smaller is because a mouse comes every night and eats part of it.
Ha, no, that's not why. The reason it gets smaller is because it orbits the Earth, and that the face of the moon acts as a mirror so the sunlight can be reflected towards Earth. So whichever way the light side of the moon is facing, that's the direction of the sun. And did you know that the moon has 8 main phases? It has a new moon, the first quarter, the first crescent, the first quarter, the waxing gibbous, the full moon, the waning gibbous, the last quarter, and the last crescent. And we can only always see one side of the moon. And the reason we can only see one side of the moon is that the moon rotates on its axis at the same speed as its orbit around Earth. So by the time it gets to one point twice, it will have rotated once. And did you know that because of the rotation of the Earth, the moon rises 50 minutes later each day?
Wow! Thanks, mister! You're smart!
And here's a fun fact for you. Because of the amount of basalt on the moon, and how big and how close the moon is, the moon's gravity creates and controls the tides, including the waves you see when you're at the beach.
Cool! The kids at school are gonna be shocked when they hear all this.
Come on now, let's go home. It's getting dark.
Okay.
Alright, here we go. Here's more about the moon. So gather around, kids, because it's story time again. Now, as most of us know, the moon rises in the east and sets in the west on a good day. And don't ask me what it is on a bad day, because I don't know. Okay? It's just what they tell me. Now, the reason it does this is because the moon orbits the Earth, and the Earth is elliptical, and the orbit is elliptical. And they have special names for our special moon. When it's closest to us, or farthest from us. Perigee is closest, and apogee is furthest. Perigee affects the tides the most, and apogee affects them the least. Now there are these things called spring tides and neap tides. Spring tides and neap tides. Okay? Spring tides are when tides are higher than normal, while the moon is in line with the sun and the Earth. And neap tides are lower than normal, while the moon is perpendicular to the Earth and the sun. Eclipses are also eventually a part of the moon's orbit. Because the moon and Earth are opaque, both of their shadows have 2 parts, the umbra and the penumbra. The umbra is the total shadow within the penumbra, which is the partial shadow. Now you're probably asking yourself, what is a shadow? If you are, you're probably also asking, what and the Earth, and/or how to stop words? If you are, I can't help you with that. There are 2 types of eclipses, lunar and solar. For a lunar eclipse to happen, the moon has to be behind the Earth, and the sun in front of the Earth, and the moon has to have at least part of itself in the umbra of the Earth. Not the penumbra, because you can't see it in the penumbra. You can only see it in the umbra. A total lunar eclipse happens when all the moon is in the umbra, and a partial lunar eclipse happens when only part of the moon is in the umbra. For a solar eclipse to happen, Earth must be behind the moon, and the sun must be in front of the moon. A total solar eclipse happens where the umbra of the moon hits the Earth, and a partial solar eclipse happens where the penumbra of the moon hits the Earth. There's also something called an annular solar eclipse, which is when the umbra of the moon doesn't touch the Earth, and you can see a dark circle inside the sun circle. So the moon looks smaller than the sun. And we'll be back with more after our commercial break.
We don't have a commercial break.
What, no commercial break?
No.
I thought we had a commercial break.
Union said no.
Guess not. Okay then, next part, here we go. Around January 2nd, 1959, the Soviet Union launched Luna 1, which was the first man-made spacecraft to fly by the moon. And with the data they collected, they discovered that the moon has no magnetic field. Later, the Soviet Union's Luna 2 became the first man-made object to touch the moon by crashing into it on September 14th, 1959. On October 4th, 1959, the Soviet Union launched Luna 3, which took the first photographs of the dark side of the moon. Now, America was getting mad at all this Soviet Union in-your-faceness. So on May 25th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy made a speech that pledged to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before 1970. Possibly the most famous part of his speech was, "We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win, and the others too." From that moment on, America had officially entered the space race. 5 years later, on February 3rd, 1966, the Soviet Union's Luna 9 safely landed on the moon. A panoramic view from its TV cameras was relayed to Earth before the batteries died. Apparently, someone forgot to charge the dang thing before it launched. Numbers 4 through 8 were supposed to do the same thing, but 4 of the 5 crashed, and the 5th one is somewhere in deep space, because it missed. How do you miss an 81 quintillion ton, 2,160 mile diameter object in the sky? Fire! After much trial and error, on July 20th, 1969, America won the space race when NASA launched Apollo 11 from Cape Canaveral and landed humans on the moon, where Neil Armstrong said his famous first words while directly making contact with the moon's surface. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." In the years following, there were near disasters, first samples, first rover, first manned buggy, and the last manned mission. Now we look for hospitable planets or moons and extraterrestrial life to conquer.
Now here's Anthony with a summary of what you have just witnessed.
First, the solar system had many planets. Then, Earth blew itself up. Then alligators came and ate most of the planets. Then, the Earth fell deeply in love with the Sun and got married, which is why the Sun has a ring of asteroids and the Earth has a ring of moonlets, which she made into the moon. Then humans came and landed on the moon. Then they had a parade. There were rides, and Anthony won the parade. Then the Soviets yelled at America for no good reason. NASA was stupid. The end.